So a year and a half ago, if you had asked me like, hey, where's the most potent place for people to dig up their shit? I would have said romantic relationships. But now I'll actually say that the most frequent material is with people's phones.
Don't you think the biggest thing that you could do is choose him? So I was on a walk with Hayden where, I kind of think maybe we should get legally married. And so by you choosing me, that was your biggest shadow, being able to integrate that and own that, while it also helped me integrate my biggest shadow. And so for me, the avoidance, it was the recognition that that wasn't the truth for me. Actually, it was my childhood telling me, everybody's gonna leave you, Victoria, so...
All addictions are change your state. That means you don't like something about the state you're in. The opposite of trauma is choice. So of course the healing of trauma is to come back to the choice of saying, I'm going to sit with this thing. And whether you need people to help you do that, or you're going to do plant medicine, whatever the journey as a psychotherapist, it doesn't matter.
My guest today is Mark Groves, human connection specialist, speaker, and founder of Create the Love. Mark has spent the last decade teaching millions how to communicate honestly, build deeper relationships, and stop betraying themselves for belonging. Through his work, he's redefined what emotional intelligence looks like, showing us that real connection begins with truth, and living out of integrity is a violation to God. But today, we're asking the question beneath all of it. Do we create the love we want, or do we remember the love we've forgotten? Because if truth is love, as Mark says, then maybe love was never something to build. Maybe it's what's behind the veil, waiting for us to remember what's always been there. Let's be clear, this one is not about dating. It's about devotion to truth, to God, to service, and to the kind of love you don't manifest, you remember. That's where I stand on today's spiritual debate, so that's where we'll begin. Hello, Mark Groves.
Woo! Oh, I'm already excited.
Well, I hope so. I think today's actually going to be really good.
Yeah, we're foreshadowing.
I 100% agree. We started the episode, but then kept talking for like 30 minutes. And then we're like, wait, the episode didn't actually begin. Let's go back. So that just tells me that we've got some really good banter and some really important conversations to be had today. So thank you for being here today. I want to start, I don't really fuck with the whole take me back to your beginning journey. It's not an interview, but I do want a little bit of context about where Create the Love concept came from. Help me understand that, and then that'll determine where we go from here.
I wish the story was like I met with a branding company and they're like, Create the Love, nail the brand. It was because I wanted to call it Create the Love You Want, but it was too long for the Instagram username. So it became Create the Love, which how serendipitously things happen. The idea was that I was tired. My own origin story of wanting to understand relationship was I was just doing it so unconsciously. I was checking boxes, getting engaged, going to university, doing the degree I was supposed to do. And those are all beautiful things. You can be unconsciously taught to have good beliefs, but you can also have limitations. And I found that I woke up within my own life being like, how did I get here? And how did I get so disconnected from myself? And the first answer that I got was, you avoided every hard conversation. And so I made a rule that I would have all the conversations I didn't want to have, because then I wouldn't end up there again. But I also was like, I'm going to choose my life. I never even thought that I had a purpose. I thought I was supposed to get a good job, make enough money to be a good provider, be able to buy a house, a car, be attractive as, make $100,000 now with inflation. It's probably $1 million. But Create the Love came from this idea of quit waiting for these things to come to you. And I remember Stephen Covey saying, love is a verb. And I was like, oh yeah, there's something to that we can create the love and the life that we desire. And so that's where it was birthed.
How do you define love?
Truth, telling the truth. It's not about staying together. Not even about being together. It's about, can I lay truth at the altar of the relationship? Can I offer truth? And if truth deepens the love, great. If it divides it or splits us, that doesn't mean it's not successful. It's like when people think that when their relationships end, they fail. But that was actually where everything came alive for me, was when my relationship ended, because then I was like, wow, why do I feel more connected to myself than I've ever been, yet I feel more judged by society and even some people that I loved? And then when my now wife and I were dating and we broke up during that process, we did a closing ceremony.
Oh, wow.
And when we did the closing ceremony, I remember saying to her, because we hadn't had like a really constructive ending conversation just due to geography and timing. And I said, hey, can we get together and just really be intentional about closing this out? And it was a loving relationship. The choice to end it came from love, not from, we just hit the upper limit. And you know that quote that love is not enough. It was like, maybe love is actually what's so present here. And when we did the closing ceremony, it was so challenging because I remember Googling like closing ceremony and I was like, other people do crazy shit like this? And yeah, other people do. And so I sent over, here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? So we lit a fire. We chose music that was important to both of us. And we went through 3 prompts. What did we most appreciate about the other person and why? What was our favorite memory? That was so hard. And then the last one was, what did we hope for the other person? And I never thought about leaving a relationship better, like making sure the other person was taken care of. I never thought about that. And when we did that, there was so much love present. And that was hard because, of course, in your brain, you're like, there's so much love here and we're ending our relationship.
Yes.
But I actually think that it was our ability to do that laid the foundation for the coming back together. Because now we could come back together and we knew that if we ever departed, there would be so much love.
Yeah, I imagine what I would feel like if I was in that position, because I've never done a closing ceremony. Usually you say, okay, we're done. And then you're like, but are we? Maybe we should, I don't know, fuck one more time just to see if it's still there. Or like, oh, damn. It's like, I'm so lonely. Let me just, hey, how you doing? Like we keep the door open energetically a lot of times, but it takes so much more courage to be like, this actually is complete for me. I feel complete inside of this union. I think it takes so much more strength to acknowledge that. I assume in this closing ceremony, there were multidimensional truths that were present. The love was there, the hope was there, the longing was there, maybe the desire was there, but the completion was there and the recognition was there. And all of those things could coexist. I think sometimes it's so hard for us to be like, this is the truth, that it's time for completion. And I can't hold all those loving emotions with it. I have to villainize or cut off or keep that karmic energy, like one door open, maybe not. They're hard to do that. And what was that process after the closure? Was it completion? And then you came back together in the future? Like, what was that completion like for you?
Yeah, we went to a no contact point because I don't fuck around with my healing. And I'm just like, I can't talk to you. Like, this is done. Yeah. I'm not going back. Like, I have no interest in being in a relationship with someone who's unsure about me. And what was actually beautiful in that, too, was that during the process of our dating, when she was like she had this dream where in the dream a house was burning down and it was our relationship and she had to leave. But she hated the dream. She didn't want that to be true. She was like, I've always wanted this type of relationship with a person like you. And now that I have it, my dream is telling me to leave you. Like, fuck you, God. Like essentially that idea of I'm not going to listen. And so we spent so much of our relational time trying to process really this idea of like, what was wrong with her that she had this hesitancy? And everything changed when we finally went, what's right with you that you have the hesitancy? And that was the first time that she had really oriented to her ambivalence or avoidance as being wisdom. Because so many people in relationships, if they're hesitant, are trying to fix the hesitancy instead of actually checking in on a deeper level. Maybe you're hesitant because you're picking up on an energetic pattern within the relationship. You're the canary in the coal mine. But then the other person in the relationship is so used to trying to fix or resolve the other person's hesitancy. They're actually, what I found was that I was not connected to discernment. So why was I so certain about someone who was uncertain about me?
Yes.
Right? Like, So I had to first honor her hesitancy, and then I had to see that within me there was hesitancy, and I was masquerading as certain. So that's how that ending really brought forth, like, I'm not going to stand for someone who's unsure about me and how could I be sure about someone who's unsure about me?
Yeah.
So I was claiming the deeper truth that lived that I learned how to bypass when I was young. And she learned to honor what was true for her. And so we went no contact, and my healing was just my number one priority, and so was hers. And so we went on that journey, and we came back like 9 months later.
You know, I think about my own relationship and how much avoidance I had and how much hesitancy I actually did have in my union. I mean, for context, I was a child who was born into multiple divorces. My parents got divorced 3 times each before I was 7.
Wow. Damn.
Here's where it gets more fucked. Mom and dad were together. Mom and dad separated. Mom and dad got remarried. Mom and dad didn't know that the people that they married used to be married.
I'm sorry, what? That's got to be a whole other podcast episode.
Oh, boy. So I was
Wait,
born.
the people that they married used to be
Yes!
married, and they didn't know that?
Nope.
That seems like a relevant piece of information.
It was the most important information when I finally had a healthy, loving, stable partner who, to his own truth as well, had some, I would say, desire to be chosen and wanting to be. Of course, that was obviously present, just in my same reason of wanting somebody to never leave me. So there was definitely those patterns that were playing out. And it got to the point where he was like, yo, you can't keep breaking up with me every single luteal phase you have and then keep coming back. It's actually not healthy for me.
Right.
I don't want this if that's the truth. And I sat with myself and was like, is this avoidance the truth? And it wasn't for me. It was the deep desire to finally be loved,
right,
and the absolute terror of committing, because I never knew commitment. And so from that point forward, that ultimatum for me ended up actually changing the direction of our entire union. Up until a week before we got married, we weren't going to get legally married because I thought, fuck the world, fuck the system. What's the point?
Yeah.
People do all sorts of crazy stuff. And I had a message from God, very similar to what feels like some of the messages that you've had in your life about like, hey, this is not it. Like, why are you checking off the boxes? The voice of God comes in and is like, what are you doing? For me, it was like, really, you say you're being so revolutionary by deciding not to get legally married. Wouldn't it be the most greatest act of devotion to God to get legally married? Because that's your greatest fear. As I sat with it, I was like, and this wasn't even a thought I had. It was like, we're so excited. We're going to do, a beautiful shamanic ceremony. It'll be great. I sat with that. I thought, I put that aside for a bit. Voice came back again a few days later. Don't you think the biggest thing that you could do is choose him?
Right.
And so I was on a walk with Hayden. We were going on our daily hike. And I just said to him so nonchalantly, like, I kind of think maybe we should get legally married. And I'll never forget the smile that he had on his face. It was like that feeling when a man feels chosen by his partner. Like, she's claiming me here.
Yeah.
And the actual blessed part about that is when we sat down with it and decided and moved forward with getting legally married, he said, it's fascinating. By you saying that you did not want to get legally married, it validated my biggest shadow, which was that I'd never be chosen. And so by you choosing me, that was your biggest shadow, being able to integrate that and own that, while it also helped me integrate my biggest shadow, which was feeling like you would never choose me anyway. You were always 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And so for me, the avoidance, it was the recognition that wasn't the truth for me. Actually, it was my childhood telling me, everybody's going to leave you, Victoria. So keep 1 foot always at the out. And so I'm curious, have you found that sometimes in people's relational patterns, the pattern is actually not the ultimate truth, and in their ability to like move into it and acknowledge it, then they actually remember a different kind of love within the texture of a relationship?
Yeah. So the avoidance that you had was intelligent and true till it wasn't. So coming from a survival strategy, it actually needed to be revealed. So when Hayden stood up against it, he stood for love, and then he forced you to have to confront what commitment truly was, and that you were afraid of commitment.
Yes.
So your avoidance actually as a strategy is brilliant. It's like when someone says, I'm afraid of commitment. I'm like, you're not afraid of commitment. You're afraid of where commitment goes.
Yes.
And so then you have to confront where commitment has gone. And then you have to actually explore the pain so you can build the skill to walk past it. Because whenever you love someone, you're signing up for the loss of them.
Yep.
So you have to be able to face the deepest griefs and losses that you've ever had, because otherwise they'll become the upper limit of your heart. Like they'll always be the thing that you're afraid of. They'll be the shadow. And so when Hayden claimed, I'm not here for this back and forth, then you have to stand in something because he stood in something. And then you actually even went further and listened to a message that you got. And I remember hearing this quote from Jordan Peterson. So love or hate Jordan Peterson. He said that commitment only works if you do it. And so I think a lot about that when it comes to relationship, that we often have sort of these side doors, or we have these exit plans, or we have these maybes. And look, like no one can say our relationship's going to last forever in the way that it currently is. But we can say that in this moment, that's true, and I'm going to do everything I can. Because when you honor that your partner can leave you, then you recognize the beautiful choice that they're choosing you.
Yeah.
It's when people make commitments till death do us part, and then what we're not honoring is, because then we think they can't leave. And so we actually take for granted that they're saying, hey, I could do this life with a lot of people. I'm doing it with you. And I think that's the most sacred act, Does that answer your question?
Hey there, it's me, B. So, as you can imagine, this is my first podcast, and so I'm learning all of these new ropes. Did you know how important ratings were? I didn't. I had absolutely no idea, and I'm so thankful for the support of my team for reminding me of how important having your ratings, your honest reflection of the podcast, how much that benefits us. So, I'm that annoying person in the middle of everyone else's episodes that I fast forward that hopefully you're listening to right now. And if you've got 30 seconds, it would mean the absolute world to us if you could take a moment, just rate this podcast, give it a thumbs up, share it with your bestie that you want to go head to head with, so we can continue to spread this message, debate about the truth, find what the truth is, and have the kinds of conversations that truly help us awaken in integrity. All right. To the episode. Yeah, it does. Because to me, it's the choice to continue to create love with this person. Whereas for me, it felt more so in my union, and even in my walk with God, in my walk with service, it feels more like I'm taking something off. That's what it doesn't. And when I take something off, it's like something else comes in and it's brighter, but it's always been there. It's like peeling a banana. It doesn't necessarily, for me, in my body, feel like, okay, if we're going to do this, we're going to consciously do this, and we're going to step into it. It feels more so like, let go of that knot, Let me release that. Can I let that in? Oh boy, wow, that fucking hurts,
Right.
To me, it feels more of like a unveiling and then remembering that is divine love instead of constantly a conscious creation of love. To me, in my body, that's how it feels.
Yeah, I think, there's a saying from Richard Rohr where he says that when you go on the journey to love, like to find yourself, you find God. When you go on the journey to find God, you find yourself. And I think about the level of relationship, like I think it's David Data who talks about the 3 stages of relationship, that the first one is, I need you. Like, I need you to complete me, and we know there's famous movies with that stuff. And then the next one is, I don't need you, and I don't need anybody. And then the third one is that through you, I find God, I find myself. And so I think that the frictions that you have relationally reveal the things that need to be resolved within you. Now, of course, it's in service of relationship, because like, how many things are humans truly willing to change for? Very little. Like, you could be a heroin addict, and the thing that's going to get you to confront the thing below the addiction, might be your rock bottom. But it's often a family member or someone you love who says, I will no longer be in relationship with you under these circumstances. I'm standing for love. And so I think that's like one of the most beautiful parts is that love will actually cause us to confront our stuff if we choose. Granted, the thing that is easiest to monetize is avoidance. Avoidance of self, avoidance of stepping into your purpose.
Well, when you and I were riffing a little bit back and forth, we had a pretty powerful conversation about cell phones. Now, I feel like you and I are going to have a good conversation because I'm going to be very transparent and admit here, no avoidance, that I 100% have a cell phone addiction.
Yeah, I still do too. I'm working on mine though.
I'm actually also am I.
Yeah.
I think I can be more diligent, but even since my conversation with you, it ignited a part of me that had gotten complacent even in my efforts to create a better relationship with my phone. You know, I was the kid who was born with the hit clip and the CD being built to the Crazer and the Razor. Like, I grew up with technology.
Nice. The Crazer and the Razor throwback.
You know what I said?
Yeah,
the chocolate.
Yeah, wow.
Right? The BlackBerry. I wish we still had the BlackBerry. I love the
BBM.
BlackBerry.
That was
T9.
T9. That was revolutionary.
Hey.
Home good. All right, you could choose.
Well, in light of that, I want to bring in that vulnerability into this space because, you know, to have a conversation with about cell phones when behind the scenes, I'm like fucking really trying to flush out the way that I avoid my emotions by utilizing my phone. I want to start on those grounds and bring transparency because to the conversation we had, you know, the cognitive dissonance that people have around their phones is just absolutely unbelievable. So paint me a picture of what you're seeing with cell phone usage and how that's directly connected to relationship to self and relationship with others.
Well, I love how you started it with, like, neither of us are on a pulpit, right?
Like, let's be honest.
Well, and all my work is always forged from the place of being in the trenches.
Yeah,
so it's like, I'm not talking about anything that I'm reading in a book. I'm going through this, and frankly, none of it's in a book yet.
Yep.
It will be, you know, because people are on the edges of this discovery. I mean, we know that the book, The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt, is all about what is going on in young people today, and it's directly correlated to the advent of smartphones, but even more specifically, social media. So a year and a half ago, if you had asked me, like, hey, where's the most potent place for people to dig up their shit? I would have said romantic relationships or intimate relationships, mom, dad, whatever it is. But now I'll actually say that the most frequent material is with people's phones. And I think the challenge we have is that we have so much shame and awareness about it that the moment that we hear that, we trigger the amygdala and we go into shutdown because we all know that it's inhibiting connection. We all know that it's contributing to anxiety. We all know these things. And so true change can't happen until you really confront reality. Like, think of it like it's when you're an alcoholic, when you go, I'm giving up to God, I am an alcoholic, or I have an addiction, or whatever it is. Or I'm a bad communicator. I'm choosing unavailable people. I love situationships. I'm addicted to sex. I'm addicted to porn. It's always that moment. And I think we all need to throw our hands up and be like, okay, this phone is hooking in to something that I have within me that I don't want to feel. And the thing is that the phone has trillions of data points on humans, and it has thousands of social scientists. And their main job is to literally get you to not be present and trillions of dollars.
That too.
So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think about how, you know, I'll be driving. Well, I won't be driving, let's be honest. My husband will be driving. I'm always passenger princess. You know what I'm saying, babe? So he'll be driving, and I'll be, you know, looking out the window, and I'll see people waiting for the bus, and everybody's on their phone, and I go, you know, like, wow, that's sad. And then I'll fucking be waiting, you know, waiting outside, and I'm uncomfortable, and there's people around, and I'll just scroll. I'm like, wow, I'm also the part of the problem. It's like when we see it, we're like, wow, you know, you see families at dinner and the kids on the phone, and you're like, good parenting. And then I'm like, fuck, I'm not even a parent. Who the hell am I to say something? And my 2-year-old won't be quiet. Maybe sometimes I need a break. Like,
totally.
I see how we are so aware that it's a problem, but like, where do we start? Where do we begin? At least in relationships, we can go, I'm very triggered right now. I need to just be here. It's very physical and present here. I find that this is such a numbing tool.
So easy.
So what do we do? Like, where do I start if I am aware that there's clearly information that is being revealed to me about a deeper part of myself? Not even just like, I got a phone addiction, but there's an opportunity for deeper radical self-love and a deeper connection to myself through recognizing where my behaviors are.
I mean, it's such a cascade because I think of a quote my friend Dave said to me that if the last thing you touch at night is your phone, it certainly won't be your wife. And I was like, oh, yeah, like how many of us are going to sleep where that's the last thing we're looking at instead of our partner? Instead, we're complaining that we can't meet people and then we're in line at Starbucks and we can't not pull our phone out. We can't be bored anymore. And, I've really started to think that if you can't be bored, you can't be in a long-term relationship.
So true.
Because ultimately love is about riding through the waves of the mundane. Because it's not about the birthdays and the deliveries and the engagements and the marriages. It's about, can you be in the moment with them when there's actually nothing to celebrate other than their presence, other than being able to just be chill together. But most of us don't even know how to be in that space anymore. And so there's a skill set that's being developed that we have to bring back in. It's a muscle. And I think we all need to understand that never in human history has there ever been a version of you available 24 hours a day who's at social risk. So the nervous system is constantly surveying to say, am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? If you have a social media profile, even if it's a personal one and private, you're still being evaluated by people you know. You're being evaluated by people you don't know. And you're also being evaluated by a non-human entity, an algorithm that's determining the value of what you're putting out there. And so you really have no recourse, especially against the algorithm, right? It's not a relationship that has a feedback mechanism. Yep. If you and I have a challenge, we can have a conversation. If you're feeling extracted from by me, you can say, I'm feeling like I'm giving a lot and you're taking a lot. And so there's a feedback mechanism. With the algorithm, there's no feedback. So it's not relational. I think platforms like YouTube are different because they pay you for your content. So there's a reciprocity to that. So there's an honoring of the art. There's an honoring of the contribution. And so when we can just understand that the reason that we tend to be really exhausted, we tend to be anxious, we tend to always pick up our phone or look at it on a table, it's because our nervous system is saying, what's going on in that world and am I okay? And also you add to that the dopamine and all the blue light. You've got a bunch of confounding things. And I heard recently that a new class differentiator will be a Screenlight childhood versus a sunlight childhood. That if you look at the higher socioeconomic classes, right, like a lot of people, let's say from Silicon Valley, a lot of the founders of these companies, their kids have rules about phones. Like Steve Jobs' kids were not allowed to use iPads. Bill Gates' kids, I believe, are not allowed to use a phone before the age of 14 or social media, but I think it's a smartphone.
Wow.
A lot of their kids go to Waldorf schools. Waldorf schools don't have technology. They have a technology room, but they don't have technology. And so they know something. And so their kids are being exposed to sunlight, playing outside, grounding. They're all in relation with their circadian rhythm. That's why I think it's so fascinating to see, like, we're going to put all these screens into kids' schools. We're going to have AI helping people learn. I'm not saying there's not value to technology. I think this is the part where the dissonance causes us to go, oh, you're saying like it's either no technology or all technology. No, it's how do we have a harmonious relationship with these things? Because the truth is that technology doesn't care about your biology. It will exploit you. So you have to be the one who decides what you're going to do with it. And that's why I think the greatest act of revolution now is deciding where your attention goes. Because if you don't decide, you'll just end up captured by algorithms and in echo chambers and in ideological rage, you know?
And I can see how that so easily bleeds into everything. Everything. Because I've sat with my my shadow about, if I take time off, right? If I remove myself from social media, let's say for a week, what do I instantly feel? I said it's a fear of absence. If there's nothing, there's nothing. And if there's nothing, then I'm nothing. It's like this for me, and I'm curious for any of the listeners, like my biggest fear is that fear of absence of nothing. If there's nothing, then who the fuck am I? So
Right.
it totally makes sense as to how that's intrinsically connected, because then I think about my relationship and think about when there's that nothing in it, we're bored, or we're in our human experience and we haven't taken a lot of time to connect, then my brain goes to, where's a problem? Is there a problem? I also have a rising in Scorpio, so I'm looking for emotional intensity. I'm like, let me see if there's oh, he didn't do that thing, and it's nothing. But I'm like, he shoulda, woulda, coulda, woulda, right? And so I can see how the phone mirrors the deeper relationships that we have with others and with ourselves. And I guess for me, I think, God, it's a scary place to look within me of absence. Like, how do I even begin to process how hooked my phone has me to feeling like this fake being seen, this fake, oh, it's not absent anymore because I can feel it. Where does one even begin once let's say, they're like, what is actually like the biggest thing that social media is revealing to me about myself? And they've got this really deep, shadowy piece that's coming up. What do you recommend that people even start to do with that information?
Well, I love how you just named it. In like, if we can just say, I have a really hard time putting it down.
Yeah.
Like, I have over 1.2 million followers. My ego could be so activated by that, and just being able to recognize that in a lot of ways I've experienced a lot of validation through that. I made a rule years ago that I would only post things that came from my heart, but I sold out that rule when the algorithm got stickier. And then I had to come back to my integrity. I think part of the human journey is forgetting.
Yeah.
It's like forgetting about yourself, forgetting what's important. And that's how you really, what reveals your values. I think about when you look at the things you're going through in your life, how spiritually people will say, well, it didn't happen to you, it happened for you. And you're like, fuck you, it sucks. And they're like, but it happened for you.
It's your mirror.
And I think a lot of the times because we don't know how to live in nuance in the world anymore, and we're stuck in binaries. We don't even have the understanding that something can happen to you and you can be the victim of something. And it can also be the birth of something.
Yep.
And we're not always ready to get right to the let's go explore why this is a benefit to me.
Yeah.
And yet, I think of all the hardest things I've been through in my life, and they've all been the most transformational. Right? So I think about when you're really ready to do any form of shadow work or growth or change, which obviously people listening to this are, you're always thinking about where's my edge? Like, where am I not in choice? This is how I think about it. If you are ever not in choice, you're enslaved by something. So if you just automatically pick up your phone is enslaving you.
Yep.
And so our work in relationship is always to get to a place of liberation. And what I mean by that is, if I'm not going to tell you the truth because I'm afraid of how it's going to make you feel or it's going to break us up, then I'm not free. So I think about that in the context of romantic relationships, which really, if we're going to like the definition of that, that's really codependency. And so I think about what my deepest work has been is working on codependency interrelationally. Am I willing to be all of me? Am I willing to be truthful? Am I willing to burn things down if I have to? With love, of course, in the context of intimate relationship. And love is truth. So it's like, love is a boundary. Love is anger. Love is not aggression, which is different, but love is saying no. Love is saying yes. And so if I resolve that interpersonally, what will naturally happen is it will then go to more of a collective codependency. That's what I noticed with social media. Was all of a sudden I was like, wait, I built this brand from a place of passion and purpose and meaning, and now that has now become my prison. It's like I can't even break out of the thing that I built that was at one point authentic to me, but now is not.
Yeah.
And so during COVID, I really felt that. Like, am I willing to say the thing that is true for me and lose everything? And then I started to notice that it moved to my phone. I was like, am I willing to put this thing down? Am I willing to see that the like if you have a business that's based on social media, your self-expression is putting your perceived survival at cost. So you just have to start to notice those things. Those are all edges for me. It was like, wait, I need to diversify where I bring in income. Because now I'm like, if I ruin this one
Yes.
thing, I can't pay my mortgage, my son can't eat, my wife can't eat. Like, those are all real human things.
Yes. That is exactly the way that I have been processing my relationship with social media on the whole, because it's my business, it's my livelihood. There's an element of need that's involved here.
And it's beautiful. Like, think
love
about how many
this.
people you reach because of social media. How I met my wife on Instagram.
You did?
Yeah, I have a child because of Instagram.
I love that.
So that's what I mean. It's holding the polarity. It's holding
Yes.
the nuance.
Yes.
It's not all bad and it's not all good.
Yeah.
But it's not all good.
Well, I think right now it's important to recognize where it hasn't become all good, because then, of course, we weave in AI and we weave in like we don't even know what's real
AI
anymore.
is...
It's a beast. It's like, and with that, I don't even think we really are fully aware of the implications of where that's going. And it's important that we're creating more and more authentically. But I also find that authenticity is such a fucking edge in today's day and age, because, to your point, nobody wants to hold the nuance. Right. So I need to say I'm either this or this, and I'm not really this or that ever. If I'm really living authentically and I'm on my spiritual seeking path, I am not left, right, none. I'm none. And this is my truth. And the more I lean into that, it feels like sometimes nowadays on social media, because everybody, for the most part, online in the mass consciousness that's scrolling a lot, they're just using it to feed something lack within them. Then it just becomes like, hate and slander and abusive language. And it just makes it like, wow, God, authenticity right now nowadays really has a price. So let me just go back to the fact that I use it just for business, and I'm going to keep it super straight, and I'm just going to talk about what needs to be talked about in a very loving, as general way I possibly can. Because the second I say what I really want to say, such as like COVID was a piece of shit, the vaccines are still coming to haunt us, and like evil is ruling this planet, it's like it's a hot.
Well, then you'll get all the standard automated pushback, that it's automatically in people's brains to... I think a lot about during COVID. So when I was a pharmaceutical rep and you sold a drug, you would get what was called an objection handler. And an objection handler was, you'd get trained on what were the most common objections that you were going to get for the drug that you sold. So a common one would be, there's no long-term data, right? And then you would have a canned answer that you were trained on. So you'd say, I know that you're saying there's no long-term data. Is there anything else other than that? No. So you'd isolate the objection. And then you would go to, well, here's what the data shows. And so we'd all be trained on this. And what I noticed the media was doing is they were training everybody in the masses to respond to the objections. So it makes a lot of sense, right? Because most people would say, I'm not ready to get it. There's no long-term data. And then someone would say, actually, mRNA vaccines have been around forever. And you'd be like, oh, God, here we go. And I think what's so interesting is that if you have a hesitancy to take a product, that's actually a natural response, right? Yeah. And if it was a hesitancy you demonstrated about a birth control pill or a blood pressure drug, people would go, that's amazing that you went on Google and you learned more about it, like, way to take charge of your health. But what you saw was that hesitancy was gaslit and it was shamed. And so what we do internally is we start to bypass and present as not hesitant. We start to abandon that part of ourselves so that we can reduce conflict. Again, more self-abandonment, more codependency. And so I agree with you too in that I'll have that experience where I feel not self-expressed, and then I express, and then I experience the lashing, and then it's like, I'll just use it for business. It'll just be a structure. But what I've noticed is that I can't do that.
Yep. I know, me too.
I can't pretend. I made a rule during COVID that I would no longer collude with people in the abandonment of reality. Because then I have to leave reality.
Yes.
If I have to sit in a restaurant and pretend that masks work, then I have to live in a world where masks work when they don't.
Yeah.
Like if I have to, if they go, it stops transmission. I'm like, there's literally no study, and we know it doesn't because fucking Bob got it and he has a vaccine, and I've never had it, but I've had COVID, so I actually have the antibodies. He doesn't, but I can't go to Christmas. That makes no sense. And everyone goes, I know it doesn't make sense, but you can't go.
Yep.
And that's where I go, okay, people's critical thinking abandoned. But if I'm going to stand for something, it's truth. So it's like, I can't then be like, it's okay not to invite that person when it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I have to be willing to be misunderstood. And that's hard work for me. I mean, my sister, when I started my social media platform, she said, you'll know you're doing great work when a third of people like you, a third of people are indifferent, and a third of people hate you. And I was like, a third? Can we like go to like 1%? That 1% DMs me, so we're good.
Waking up can feel like your whole world is turned upside down, and there's no one there to catch you. What? And so you ask yourself, who am I? What's my purpose? What are my gifts? And years later, you're still asking yourself the same questions. Cue the Sovereign Healer, the only psychic development and energy healing sovereign development school that'll help you understand your unique abilities without leaving your meditation cushion. Let's get it.
That is 100% the biggest piece of work that I have been trying to iron out internally. Actually, my spirit guides, I said to my spirit guides a few days ago, because I've been going viral on a post, I just said, hey, what is your best piece of advice to navigate people who hate you? And they said, love yourself 10 times more. So the hate feels not so heavy, just feels like a different frequency. It's just like that is their unique path. I'm loving myself so hard that, and I'm really self-validating. I'm so proud of you, Victoria. That's big work. I know that's big work for you. Like, I see you. So that when the hate comes, it's like, at least it's not hitting the self-criticism that I'm already feeling and the fear of how people are going to perceive it. Rather, it's like bouncing off of the part of me that's so proud of that little girl in me that was so afraid of how people would perceive her. And we just soothed that from within. I think that's very, very, very hard work to do. And admittedly, I think a lot of people who have very large social media followings would be adverse to even admitting that within themselves, that they have watered themselves down in some way to try to keep at bay what I think is uncontrollable in this social media space, which is people have forgotten to love themselves, and they're using social media as that channel to project a lot of those parts of themselves that need to put other people down because they put themselves down to make themselves feel better, or to get caught in a hate thread because it's easier to do that than actually become somebody significant to themselves.
Yeah, I think it's really hard for the nervous system to hold, a viral post like you're talking about. I think that's where village is so important. Yep. That's where, your partnership and your friends who say, let me hold this with you. And they're also able to differentiate good feedback from just reactivity and triggers.
Yes.
And that takes a regulated village. That takes a village that's been initiated. That takes mature people. And I think if you really want to have an opinion in this world, you have to be open to, although I'm not saying it's easy, but I've really learned that you have to be really open to being misunderstood. And the other part is that I think a lot of guidance from God or whatever someone's version of that is inconvenient. I think it's often the thing you don't want to do. Yeah. I think it's the conversation you don't want to have. And I hate that truth.
Too.
I also hate, while we're on it, I also hate that I know that you don't get the answer till you leap. I know that you have to trust, and the very act of trust is doing the thing. And then, it's how they say, like, just leap and there's a net. And I'm like, I know there's a net, but you don't get the net till you leap. And I also know how much pain it causes to not do the thing, like to water down. Like to water down. Like, oh, you're dating another unavailable person? Like, oh, let's talk about that again. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? We had a huge relational communal trauma. The government and public health weaponized love and belonging and turned us against one another to get us to take a vaccine that didn't have long-term data. Like, am I taking crazy pills? I feel like that scene from Zoolander. He's like, what is this, a school for ants? Yes. And that's why I think the real work is to just say that and be like if you hate that, that's true though. Like, those are all I think you could fact check all the things I just said, except for the school for ants.
Do you remember when they used to put fact check underneath your posts that were clearly fucking right?
Like vitamin C helps immune systems. Remember when they said vaccinated immunity was better than natural immunity, which I think is just so funny because it's the arrogance of humanity. And also, remember when they said mask work in restaurants? Like, have we still figured that one out? Like, I can't get over that one because I think that one is so representative of the collective psychosis when we're afraid. And, I know there's I forget who talks about it, but that when we look at history, we have to all accept that we would be the soldier in Nazi Germany.
Mm-hmm.
We have to all accept that under the right circumstances and emotions and pressures. And that's the thing, is that the people who design media, who design propaganda and marketing, and the trillions of data points, all know, they've all read the Science of Influence. They all know the book Propaganda Persuasion. Edward Bernays, I think, is the original author in that space. They all know how to change human behavior on a collective level. And I think we have to all recognize that we are prone to being manipulated.
Yeah.
And that's freeing. Because then I go, oh, I'm so mad because I'm enrolled in a narrative.
So then does that mean that we then remember that we were manipulated, right? We forgot, kind of fell asleep to the fact that we could have been controlled in some way, and then we go, the phone, or, oh, my relationship, or, oh, this fucking system, and we remember the fact that we are actually creators of love.
Right.
So would you say that maybe, do we create the love or remember? It's almost like we forget, and then we remember that we are, and then we create. It's almost like that is the continuation of the cycle of human experience.
Yeah, isn't it just the continuous waking up? It's like, that moment when you think you got to figure it out, the universe is like, here's a cosmic dump truck. And you're like, I thought I was done the work. And then you realize that you're always a student, and all the sages who talk about that were actually right. And if you actually just take that level of humility, then you're not going to get caught upside the head.
Yeah.
I remember thinking when I learned something new, I was like, man, at what point does the onion get smaller? Like I unveil and then all of a sudden I'm like, where's the core? And I remember my friend said to me, maybe instead of the onion getting smaller, or you're trying to get to a core, every time you remove a layer, you get bigger. And I was like, oh, that's a much better reframe.
Yes.
Recently I was talking to a friend about Ram Dass, and one of Ram Dass's favorite messages that he got from his teacher Maharaji was to love everybody and tell the truth. And he would say to his teacher, but the truth is I don't love everybody. and then his teacher would say, love everybody and tell the truth. And I think that is the work. Like, can we love people we have difference with? Can we? Because I think we've gotten to this place where social media has created such echo chambers. Like, we are consenting to the programming device. Mm-hmm. And so we just have to remove consent and start to explore how we're being programmed, and that we're open, that we are possibly able to be programmed. And also that programming is actually pulling us away from our mission.
Yes.
With whether that's God, soul, whatever you want to call it. But it can also be the communication device that connects you to a conversation like this, or to doing something with you where you channel. So we have to recognize, again, the both and in it.
That is so fucking hard to do, because I think it's just, it's easier to go one way or the other way. It's easier to be like, no, God is so good, and it's impossible that there could ever be evil on this planet that could be trying to depopulate, an extraordinary amount of us for no other reason than...
That's hard to believe or reconcile.
It is.
Right? It's too confronting. I'd rather watch Netflix.
100%.
Right.
And I don't blame people. I fucking watch Netflix sometimes when I deal with clients who have very significant demonic attachments. I deal with clients who have very significant, that fine line between mental psychosis, right? And then spiritual psychosis. To me, they're very different things. And it's very hard to be like, hey, I'm done for the day. Because it's not my job to save you. It's to help try to get you on the natural path where you remember that you are your own creator and that you can move forward naturally. But sometimes there's so much evil that I see on a day-to-day basis. People who are so thrown out of the way that they were naturally intended to be, that I'm like, what's on Netflix? We want to watch. We want to watch some like
There's some good shows on there.
chicks, some like hot chicks in their mid-30s, making drama about, selling, I don't know, houses. Yeah,
Love is Blind, Hot or Not. Remember those? I do have a question. Do you think that the collective experience of the last 4 years is a spiritual entity or a virus or psychological or both?
Both. But I think the initial creation of COVID, I think it was some very advanced extraterrestrial nefarious contribution, let's say. I think that the government has been either partially a lot of entity attachments through some of the demonic work that they do, and also in direct contact with very nefarious extraterrestrials that have agendas to basically keep planet Earth a karmic slave planet. And I believe that that's how COVID was created, through nefarious extraterrestrials who have nefarious agendas to try to continue creating Earth as a siphoning planet. And then also, I would say that obviously there's truth in the fact that we all have the possibility of evil. We can choose. God gave us free will, which is the same reason why God, up until this point, has allowed there to be evil for evil's sake on planet Earth, because it's obviously serving a purpose.
Yeah.
Like, if it fell from the highest realm, which is my personal belief, that God had his sons and one son chose to become a fallen angel or fallen angle of light to perceive itself as light, wanted to use its own free will to be equal of power but false. If it fell from the highest dimension, that means that there is a lot of infiltration through the layers of the dimension that has made us human. And that means that there's a part of us within us that has that capacity to be evil. So I think it's a bit of both. I think we have these parts of us that have the ability to create evil, which has been mirrored through the government that we are allowing ourselves to be siphoned from. And I think that there are external entities that have had a very long history of infiltration on planet Earth. And I think that there's actually an interdimensional friction, or I call it a war, but it's in this dimension. So it's like, of course, it seems like a fucking war. And the highest dimension is just vibrations trying to find harmony. Mm-hmm. And I believe that we're in the thick of trying to get to a more positive polarity on planet Earth. It's just, well, we're slaves.
I think if someone has a big challenge with what you're saying, like they can't conceptually think about aliens, or they can't conceptually think about God or sons or whatever, all that stuff, that they can just feel within themselves when they're out of integrity and when a choice feels good versus one that feels bad. When someone says to you, you need to get this product, and if you don't do it, you lose your job. That is the as above, so below, of that energetic. And that's why I think, like, you're saying something that makes sense to someone who can deconstruct the world in the way you're deconstructing it. But to, let's say, an average Christian
100%.
Or just an average, I don't even mean average hierarchically. I just like the way an average person thinks, who's gone to school and did a degree in finance. And, again, I did a degree in finance, so I'll just throw myself in this bus. But to be able to say, like, there's a feeling of that we can be so deep within our own experience. And I think that's where it starts. It's like something feels off in the life I'm choosing. And then something is trying to be revealed through you. And then eventually you end up down a rabbit hole and there's aliens running the planet.
Well, I think the biggest difference is clairvoyance. I've had someone who's done countless medicine journeys in this chair who has never had a nefarious experience to his belief because he can't see what's beyond the veil. That's like sitting with a medium and then someone who went to school for finance, and having a conversation about, spirits, and that there's one in this room and his name is Phil and he has a message for you, right? It's just having different set of eyes. Doesn't mean that we're seeing anything necessarily different, just from a different perspective. So to your point, I totally agree. I call it the feeling. Yeah. Being able to trust that feeling. Because sometimes it'll be like, fuck no. But a lot of times it's just,
It's subtle.
It's, I don't know about that. Something about that. That's discernment. That's that feeling that lives within every single one of us, no matter how programmed you have been. I believe we all have that feeling.
100% agree.
It's just about
That's
being
the
able
brilliance.
to, yeah, it's
the
about
wisdom and the hesitancy.
just like grab it, just grab, oh, wait.
Instead of what's wrong with me that I'm feeling a
Yeah.
And we'll
True.
pathologize that, right? Like we'll go to like, I need to understand what part of my childhood led to the fact that I'm doing this. And instead of being like, what is right in that emotion or that hesitancy? But I think all of it, as we were saying, like the forgetting and the remembering, you have to go down the quote unquote wrong path of your life. I even think of the feeling of what someone might be able to say as a dark entity in a room is also why someone does cocaine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all addictions are change your state. That means you don't like something about the state you're in. But there's information in the discomfort that you're trying to escape.
Yep.
And that discomfort could have been originated from when you experienced trauma. You know, and there's a saying that the opposite of trauma is choice. So of course the healing of trauma is to come back to the choice of saying, I'm going to sit with this thing. And whether you need people to help you do that, or you're going to do plant medicine, or whatever the journey is, a psychotherapist, it doesn't matter. It's that you're actually saying, I'm choosing. And that is, I think it's Alan Watts who said that when you wake up to conscious choice, you become the God you were taught to praise. And he does have a great line where he says that the greatest trick the church ever pulled was to be the broker between you and God. That was brilliant, I gotta say. If it was in a marketing plan, that was good.
No, it's so true. It's like, how many wedges can we create between that and that which has never left you? You know, how many spaces can I create between you and the part of you that if you just sat with that part of you, you would meet the divine? It goes back to the phone. It goes back to the relationship. The more of a wedge I create, you know, the more I avoid, the farther I get from the thing that has never and will never leave me.
It's so simple because it's like, as we're having this conversation, it's just the very simple recognition that everything like processed food, sugar, digital devices, all of these just interrupt that moment. Sitting with a tree and being with God. And I remember asking my friend who knew like all the top spiritual teachers, I said, what is true about all of them? And she said, well, the truth is you don't need them. And then she was like, actually, that's not true. You need them to remind you that you don't. And I think maybe that's the best sign of a teacher, is a teacher who actually is trying to be discarded by you.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes. And, you know, a teacher who wants you to not need them and to move on from them. You know,
Right.
like what I love about my work is that I have never had the same, it's been an honor for me. I've never had the same person who's come back with the same spiritual problem ever. So they come in, let's say they've got a demonic attachment. Once that's removed, they might come back and go, fuck, like, you know, and then I went viral on social media and there's a lot of energetic hate. It's like, okay, that's a different problem. I'm very happy that you're coming back at a time where we can help you come back to your natural energy and continue forward. And I love that part of the process when I've done enough energy work and they're receiving their natural energy so much so that it's like, they don't talk to me a lot. They don't got a lot to share. They're like, oh shit, I didn't even see your message there. I'm like, that's when I know I've won. When you are regenerating your own connection with God, when you don't need somebody else to reflect back, hey, by the way, the kingdom of heaven is within you. Oh, fuck yeah, you're right. Thank you. Yeah. There they are. When that is no longer needed, then I know I've done my job. And if you don't ever need, you know, a healer again, 100%, then I feel like I've won. That's my goal, is that when people come in, they come in, I believe, in my work. I believe it's because my work is God's work and I'm here to help them get on their natural God-given path. And then when they have aligned with their natural energy, it's you and God, go, you know, see you later. And if they ever come back, it's because there's something new, a new realization, a new challenge, a new growth, a new edge maybe to your conversation. And I think that that's what's blessed, is we don't come back and need the same validation, same hit. No. Can we be courageous enough to find the courage to let go of that need and maybe move into something else that will support us in deepening that natural connection with something that has no need?
I think that's what the core of really sacred relationship is like, does your partner want you to become the most powerful and free version of yourself?
Love it.
And can we use our relationship to do that? Because I think when we're operating on a level of unconscious relating, we're going like, oh, they didn't text me back, or you're whipped, or whatever the lines are that we have, like, oh, how do I get my power back? What's the right text I can write? And then we're getting ChatGPT to write our text. Instead of being like, as soon as you're thinking about relationships in the context of power, you're already lost. Because the more powerful my wife becomes, the more powerful I become. And like one thing that I hate but love is that when she reflects anything to me, it's almost always so accurate and uncomfortable. And I can dislike what I hear, but know that what's coming is coming in love. It's communicated well, 99.9% of the time. And it's always in service of my evolution. And I, speaking to what you're talking about, is like the path to become and get in alignment with God, with ourselves, with soul. Imagine if our partner said, that's why we're together. Let's do that. That sounds amazing. Who wouldn't want that on a Tinder profile? Right? Like swipe right to that. No bathroom selfies. Come on, shirtless selfies.
Bunch of boys with
here.
a beer in their hands and then
Fish.
Fish.
Yeah.
Big
Or
flannel
the chicks on the edge of a pool with their butt. Like, come on, we know what you're doing. Your peace signs. You never even been to a rally. Get out of here.
That is not a swipe for me anymore. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
It maybe would have in the past, but not in the present. Mark Groves. It's not Mark. It's Mark Groves, by the way.
Yeah, I like the double naming.
Does anyone else agree? Like, you can't just say Mark on its own. Like, your energy to me is giving Mark Groves.
I appreciate that. I have a mug that says Mark fucking Groves. My friend gave it to me to remind me.
I thought it was too soon to go Mark fucking Groves, but
nah, let's go.
on the second pod, next time I see you, I'll go Mark fucking Groves.
Yeah,
But for
like
now, it's been absolutely extraordinary having you. You're just a well of wisdom. I have been learning so much from the people who've been coming on the podcast. And one thing particularly, someone who's got a lot of quotes to share about other people's wisdom, to me just is such a sign of gorgeous integrity. When you can say, this is where I learned it, and I've learned things from other people. Like, hell yeah, I think that's beautiful. So
I appreciate that. And thanks for having me. Thanks for sharing me with your people. And thank you for trading your time to listen to us. I mean, that means everything to me. And thanks for your generosity of your gift and that you keep saying yes to your mission. And what an honor it is to get to walk along that path with you and sit in this chair.
Well, I think it's such a beautiful representation of exactly what we're talking about with the phone. Like, thank you to the people who have made it this far for using their phone to grow themselves,
Again,
to connect deeper,
both
to be able to
and.
take this wisdom and now implement that into their lives. So I guess the final question for you is, do you believe that we create the love or that we remember it?
I think we do both. Which that's not a cheating answer. It's not oppositional. I think that through creating it, we remember it. And through remembering it, we create it. Like it's a symbiotic relationship. It's like a boundary creates self-worth and self-worth creates boundaries. They're not independent. It's the same idea.
Oof. Well, I guess that's that then. Do we create the love or do we remember it? I appreciate you so much, Mark Groves. Thank you for being on the
Thank
pod.
you. I appreciate you.
Namaste all day.
All day. Love and light.
Not love and light.